You've been lied to your entire life about Cleopatra. She wasn't just a temptress, she was a ruthless strategist, a master economist, and the last hope of an empire. If you've ever walked into a meeting and felt your power was undermined, this video reveals 5 Cleopatra secrets of power that are fully actionable today. By the time she died at 39, Cleopatra had achieved what no other Ptolemaic ruler could, securing loyalty against Rome for 2 decades. Her methods weren't charm, they were clarity, courage, and adaptability. We are breaking down her entire doctrine, from diplomatic chess to managing her public relations as a goddess. Stick around, because the 5th lesson on controlling your final narrative will change how you think about success. Cleopatra inherited a mess. The Ptolemaic dynasty was Macedonian Greek. For 250 years, her ancestors had ruled Egypt, but they treated the natives like colonial subjects. They spoke Koine Greek, isolating themselves from the very people they governed. Cleopatra was fluent in Koine Greek naturally, but her masterstroke? She became the only Ptolemaic ruler known to have learned the Egyptian language. This was not just a linguistic novelty, this was a radical political statement. She didn't just speak their words, she identified with their gods. She presented herself as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. The political benefit was immediate. She aligned all key stakeholders. The Egyptian priests, the primary power brokers outside the palace, saw her as legitimate. The Macedonian elite respected her heritage. And Rome had to deal with a unified, fiercely loyal nation, not a fractured colony. Modern Lesson 1. Know your stakeholders' language. Leaders today must achieve sophisticated understanding of alignment. Are you speaking the language of your investors, your employees, and your customers? If you fail to connect with one pillar, your entire structure is vulnerable. Consider her rival brother, Ptolemy XIII. He only spoke Greek. He relied on military might. Cleopatra used education and cultural understanding as her initial weapon. She studied politics, philosophy, and science. Intelligence, not just lineage, cemented her claim. When she returned to the palace, rolled in a rug or not, it was theater with a purpose. It was a symbolic act demonstrating audacity and proximity to power. She didn't fade from history during her exile. She used that time to calculate exactly when to step forward. Her time away was her research phase. A true master of strategic communication, she used this period to analyze the political landscape, a form of asymmetrical public relations long before the concept existed. This mastery allowed her to bypass traditional power structures simply by being seen as the divine and unifying element. Cleopatra understood that power wasn't just held, it had to be performed. This wasn't vanity, it was strategic communication. She employed press agency and pseudo-event mastery to cultivate a brand identity that was simultaneously Egyptian goddess and Greek intellectual. From her appearances to her grand entrances, she used symbols and spectacle to inspire loyalty and reinforce her authority. The famous meeting with Mark Antony in Tarsus, arriving on a gilded barge, was a carefully orchestrated media event. Modern Lesson 2. Your presence is a public relations tool. Every appearance must serve the strategy. Are your communications consistent? Does your personal brand or your company's instill a sense of purpose? What is fascinating is the research-based approach behind her spectacle. Historians now recognize her as an advanced, research-based, relationship-focused ruler, a supremely strategic communicator who forestalled the fall of Egypt to Rome for 2 decades. Her image wasn't passive, it was assertive. She was the first woman sovereign in history to rule alone for a significant period. In a world dominated by Roman generals and male pharaohs, symbolism was the armor she wore. Think about the Berlin Cleopatra sculpture. It shows her wearing the royal diadem. Even in Roman depictions, she maintained her queenly identity. She controlled the narrative by becoming a symbol larger than herself. This is not about arrogance, it is about strategic self-definition. Beyond the grand entrances, Cleopatra was a brilliant head of state. Egypt, strategically located at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East, was an economic powerhouse. Cleopatra capitalized on this. Modern Lesson 3. Control your resources, control your sphere. She didn't just tax trade, she nurtured economic ties, fostering a commerce climate that contributed immensely to Egypt's wealth. Crucially, she invested shrewdly in military infrastructure. Cleopatra understood the strategic importance of naval power. Her fleet was among the most formidable in the ancient world. This wasn't defense, this was influence projection. By investing in warships, she secured the vital Mediterranean trade routes. Economic stability was her foundation for political power. When she met with Rome, she wasn't begging, she was leveraging the wealth generated by her maritime security. This management of resources allowed her to build a formidable naval fleet, expanding Egypt's influence far beyond its borders. Her alliance with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony are often depicted as pure romantic escapism. This is a dramatic distortion. In reality, these were calculated strategic partnerships. A leader's greatest resource is not inherited, it is cultivated through foresight and decisive action. Economic strength ensures that diplomacy is conducted from a position of power, not of desperation. The alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony are often depicted as pure romantic escapism. This is a dramatic distortion. In reality, these were calculated strategic partnerships.
Modern Lesson 4. Build relationships that serve strategy, not ego. Cleopatra's objective was simple: secure Rome's protection against internal threats, such as her own siblings and political opposition. Internally, she also mastered this art. Faced with political opposition, she didn't just use force. She skillfully negotiated with influential families and courtiers, offering positions of power to secure their loyalty. She maintained a delicate balance between appeasement and decisive assertion. She knew how to persuade. Cleopatra was renowned for her eloquence and charm, essential tools for forging these high-stakes alliances. Great leaders communicate their vision and persuade others to support their cause. Her relationships were her greatest diplomatic weapon. But this lesson comes with a critical warning: the risk of overextension. The grand ambitions of Antony and Cleopatra, aiming to form a dynasty that could rival Rome, ultimately exceeded their resources. Their downfall was a strategic miscalculation, a bold move not grounded in political reality. Alliances are leverage, but that leverage must be constantly weighed against your actual capacity. When all strategy failed and Octavian's forces closed in, Cleopatra faced the ultimate loss, the end of her kingdom and the end of her life. But even here, she executed a final, profound act of leadership.
Modern Lesson 5. Endings define the entire narrative. Leaders rarely control every part of their story, but how they handle the close of a chapter often defines the entire legacy. Octavian intended to parade her through the streets of Rome as a captured spoil of war, symbolizing the utter collapse of the Ptolemies. Cleopatra refused. Her death was not a defeat, it was a deliberate, dramatic exit on her terms. She didn't fade from history, she left it deliberately. This final choice protected her dignity,
cemented her legend, and denied Octavian the full political satisfaction of conquering her. In leadership, managing your legacy is perhaps the most difficult task. Cleopatra ensured that her story would be one of brilliance, resolve, and personal command, not of servitude. That dramatic ending is one of the key reasons she is remembered so vividly. We covered the 5 keys: strategic alignment, calculated branding, economic leverage, strategic relationships, and legacy control. These principles of clarity, courage, and adaptability remain constant, regardless of the age. If you want to master the art of strategic influence in your own life, just like Cleopatra mastered the Mediterranean, then subscribe. Don't miss the next lesson in power that the history books keep hidden. Click the bell so you don't miss out on controlling your own story.